Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 158. Countrywide Cooking Competition. LIAN passed by the gate of the old house. He had already gone far but still couldn't help looking back at the locked gate. Zhao Shi understood his thoughts. She sighed and said between gnashing teeth, "Family head, we had been cheated by Lao Wu back then. If he had not coaxed us with that 100 taels of silver, how could we have decided to separate from the family? If there had been no separation, we would have been eating and drinking lavishly in the capital by now." LIAN thought the same as what she said. However, he felt very disgraced getting grumbled at by his wife that he had to retort, "Lao Wu is just a junior bureaucrat now. How much profit can he dredge up?" Zhu'er stood behind them with two heavy hose on her shoulders. She secretly looked at the calluses on her hands and sighed in silence. "It's better than staying in the recess of the mountains." Zhao Shi curled her lips, "We're running out of money. What should we do in the future?" "Ah. What? It's going to run out so soon?" LIAN stared at her, not daring to believe it. Zhao Shi put her hands on her hips and stared with bulging eyes, "Can I even cheat you? Back then, Lao Wu gave." LIAN immediately interrupted her, "Go back first and talk later. Don't you see where we are?" The three of them quickly walked home. "Zhu'er, bar the gate." LIAN looked back at Zhu'er and his eyes fell on her upturned butt. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Zhao Shi didn't notice as she took out the key to open the door of the main hall. "Family head, go get a basin of water for me to wash my face. I'll get the money box." "Get it yourself." LIAN came to his senses and remembered that matter. He ran into the bedroom and took out a wooden box from the bottom of the suitcase and opened it with the key hanging around his neck. When he saw that there were only 2 pieces of broken silver and 20 pieces of copper left in the box, he narrowed his eyes and yelled out, "What are you wasting time for, you stinky woman? Why don't you come in?" "Coming, coming." Zhao Shi wiped her face with a towel and said with dissatisfaction, "What's so urgent? Where did you hide the silver? I don't believe this is all the money we have left at home." LIAN coldly stared at her as he spoke with suspicion. Zhao Shi was taken aback. Then, she was so aggrieved that she slapped her thigh and uttered cries of anguish, "You villain! When did I hide the silvers? Don't you know how many times you take out money? Yeah, there's no way to live." "Enough." LIAN had a headache when she quarreled with him. He started to count the funds with his fingers. He and Zhao Shi were always lazy. Before they separated from the old house, they seldom found odd jobs and had not saved any money. At most, they just took advantage to take some of the amount when Shi gave them money to buy some items or food for the family. They didn't save any of that amount either. They bought snacks and ate them in a few days. After the separation, they had Lei Xiangji's 100 silver taels plus the 40 silver taels from selling the charcoal burning formula, all of which added up to 140 silver taels. Aside from building the new house, buying furniture, digging well, he bought Zhao Shi jewelry, bought a longevity lock each for Dabao and Erbao, bought a jade pendant for himself, paid for Dabao and Erbao's school, and had new clothes made for his family. The more LIAN calculated, the more frightened he was. His body froze and his eyes started bulging. After calculating all of that, they only had 2 silver taels at most. To him, who had formed the bad habit of spending money lavishly, and Zhao Shi, who liked to show off in front of others, this was as good as a thunderbolt out of a clear sky. Zhao Shi was still delusional that maybe it was this villain man who hid a part of the money to make bogus accusations against her. But looking at his expression that didn't look fake, Zhao Shi's heart tightened. She asked in a worried voice, "How is it, family head? Is our family truly running out of money?" Liangren's face was overcast as he said in a deep voice, "It's all that's left in the money box." Zhao Shi panicked, You did not hide any money? So, what should we do in the future?" At the thought of the future where she had to be as frugal as she had been a long time ago, that even those uncouth village women would look down at her, she felt pain like thorns growing all over her body. LIAN had nothing to say in reply. Zhao Shi said between sobs, "Why did I follow you, such a useless person? If only we had known it would be like this, we shouldn't have sold the charcoal burning formula back then, or we could have sold it secretly ourselves." LIAN had a flash of inspiration in his mind and began to laugh, "Ha ha ha." Zhao Shi raised her orchid fingers to wipe her tears with a handkerchief and said with distaste, "How can you still laugh at a time like this?" LIAN picked up the teapot on the side of the table and poured himself a cup of tea with leisure. His eyes twinkled with cunning dark light. "Back then, it's our loss to sell that charcoal burning formula. What if we sell the formula further away again? Won't we make some money?" At first, Zhao Shi rejoiced, but then she looked worried. "Can it be done? I remember that Lao Wu asked you to press your thumbprint on the document that said it will be sold to one person only and mustn't be sold again to other people. If you're as timid as a mouse, you won't be able to do something big." LIAN glanced at her and disapprovingly said, "We'll sell it to a farther place. As long as you and I don't tell anyone, who will know? What's more, our Wulang and youngest brother-in-law are government officials now. Even the county magistrate came to congratulate them personally. If we are found out, we have them. What should we be afraid of?" Zhao Shi lost her mind at the thought of the money she was about to get. She repeatedly nodded, full of joy. Right, my husband is very smart. Don't mind LIAN and Zhao Shi, who took the road to ruin. After Mian finished the matter of the bakery, he began to prepare for the cooking competition. Strictly speaking, Mian couldn't compare with other professional chefs in terms of the cooking skill itself. However, compared with other chefs, he had several obvious advantages. First, his dishes would be more novel than others. Second, his seasoning was better than others. Third, he had the spiritual spring water. Fourth, his ingredients were produced in the magical space. Fifth, since he began to cultivating, his senses of smell and taste were more sensitive than before, so he would be more precise in the use of seasoning than others. With all of that, he was fully confident in this competition. Still, what should be prepared still had to be prepared. He wanted to make all the contestants and judges marvel at his dishes. He spent 5 days observing the 4 chefs in Double Siang House to make sure that he left at least some impression of a professional cook on others. Then, he spent a day setting down the menu for the competition and practicing over and over again to make sure that his cooking moves and steps were skilled and practiced. Time went like lightning. In a twinkling of an eye, it was already the middle of the 6th lunar month. There were more and more outsiders in Running Water Town. They all had heard that Double Siang House was going to hold a countrywide cooking competition and wanted to see the show. The inns in Running Water Town were full, and even some people's homes were rented. The owners of all the shops in the town went practically giddy with happiness. Some small shops in the recession were already satisfied to be able to earn tens of yuan a day. But now, their daily net profit at least exceeded 200 yuan, which was more than 5 or 6 times their previous net profit. Famous chefs from wine houses all over the country had arrived at Double Siang House one after another. Starting from the 17th day of the 6th month, Double Siang House was no longer open to the public. It only received participants. On the 19th day of the 6th month, the registration for the contest was closed. Manager soon looked at the registration list and clicked his tongue. There was a total of 79 wine houses participating in the competition who came from the Western Mountains, Eastern Mountains, North Rivers, and South Lakes, and even from the capital city. One could imagine how sensational this cooking competition was. Mian was very clear that the main purpose for most wine houses to be willing to participate in the competition was still their seasoning recipe. Anyway, it didn't matter why these people joined the competition. The important thing was that they came and spared no effort in the competition for the seasoning recipe. That was enough. On the morning of the 20th day, the persons in charge of all participating wine houses sat together to discuss the rules of the competition. Mian directly asked LIAN to write 100 copies of the competition rules in advance and asked him to send one to each person in charge. Those people looked at the calm young man dressed in blue with some uneasiness in their hearts and accepted the copy of the competition rules to examine it in detail. One person read out loud, "All contestants must come up with enough bargaining chips. If they can't win the top 5 places, those chips would belong to the top 5 wine houses. For example, the chips of the Double Siang House are the secret recipes of the 13 spices and the 18 delicacies. If Double Siang House can't win the top 5, the top 5 wine houses can get the secret recipes of the 13 spices and the 18 delicacies. If gold and silver are used as chips, each chip would have to be 600 taels for every participant. There are 3 stages in the competition. The preliminary elimination round, which was to distinguish the seasonings in a certain dish. The second round was to make a vegetable dish. The final round was to make a meat dish. In order to avoid people from sabotaging others, the food materials and cooking utensils should be provided by oneself. The dishes are evaluated by anonymous selection of judges for fairness and acknowledgement. After reading the 2 pages, everyone spontaneously wanted to wipe their sweat. The mechanics was so detailed rules that there were almost no loopholes to take advantage of. Inexplicably, they all believed that these rules were made by Mian, the little boss of Double Siang House. Although the poker-faced man looked frightening, he didn't seem to have such an intricate mind. Mian said with a faint smile, "If you have any requirements, you can add them. If you have any suggestions, you can also mention them." Zheng Xiongui said, "If gold and silver are used as chips, how can they be allocated to the top 5? Will they be split equally?" "Of course not." Mian said, "We'll divide all the gold and silver into 15 equal parts. The first place gets 5 parts, the second place gets 4 parts, the third place gets 3 parts, the fourth place gets 2 parts and the fifth place gets 1 part. And of course, if you think it's unfair for all the top 5 to get the complete recipes of the 13 spices and the 18 delicacies, if my Double Siang House loses, I can modify the distribution of recipe. The first place gets the complete recipes, the second place can get a few less." Before he had finished, someone waved to stop him. No, just follow the original rules. If your wine house, unfortunately, falls outside the top 5, the top 5 all get the complete secret recipes." The rest echoed in succession. They didn't take the rising Double Siang House seriously, but there was no lack of wine houses with a long-established reputation in the competition. No one dared to say that they must take the first place. It was better for all the top 5 to equally get them. Another person raised a suggestion: cooking skill is not limited only to the standard of making a dish but also the requirements for knife work. Shouldn't knife work be added to the contents of the competition? Many people echoed this statement. Mian shook his head. No matter how good the dish is cut, it will still get down to how good the food tasted. So, I don't think it's necessary. If you insist on adding this item, my Double Siang House can only stand down regretfully. The corner of everyone's mouths twitched. Doesn't this show clearly that it's not allowed to add knife work? Everyone had no choice but to compromise on this point. Jin Chang'an, from the wine house in the capital, stood up and said, "About the judges of the competition, this Jin would like to introduce 3 people to everyone first." Everyone had long noticed the 3 old men sitting behind him. Jin Chang'an cupped his hands in respect to one of the 50-year-old men. This person has worked as the imperial chef for more than 10 years, Lao Lu with the name Yunwei. I think you've all heard of him. As soon as his voice fell, many looked surprised and happy. In the winehouse business, few had never heard of Lao Liu's formal name. No one doubted that this was someone pretending. After all, one had to be convincing when commenting, lest one made a fool of oneself. Everyone stood up and bowed with hands folded in front to salute. Lao Lu laughed warmly and kindly and cupped his hands as he said, "You don't have to be polite. This old fellow happened to be in the capital when I heard the news, so I came to join in with Boss Jin. If everyone can trust this old fellow, I'll shamelessly be the competition judge." One by one, everyone said that they trusted him but simultaneously looked toward Qin Mian for fear that he would be an annoying troublemaker again. Qin Mian cupped his hands in respect and said, "It's our blessing to have Lao Lu overseeing this competition. Hope Lao Lu gives this junior get a chance to entertain you." "You flatter me," said Lu Yunwei with a smile. Jin Chang'an also introduced two other elders, one was Lao Gu and the other was Lao Wen, both of whom were good friends of Lao Lu. They were all famous chefs of their generation, and now they had retired. After they discussed some details, the final rules were determined, copied and pasted on the wall. The afternoon of the 20th day and the 21st day were reserved for participants to familiarize themselves with the venue and order food ingredients. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 159. The competition begins. After the meeting ended, Qin Mian called Manager Sun to the lounge. "Manager Sun, take this instruction, all the guests in Double Siang House must be treated with care during these days. Tea, snacks, fruits, and 3 meals a day all should be served most exquisitely. Let them experience for themselves that our small region has a noble enjoyment to offer. Also, get some copies of the pastry list from the bakery. We'll provide them whatever they order. Of course, the prices are still charged as usual but give them a 10% discount. As for Lao Lu and the other two elders, they all receive a 20% discount." "Yes. Don't worry, little boss. We'll do our very best." Manager Sun left with high morale. A waiter knocked on the door and reporting to the little boss. "Young Master Nai is here. Invite him in." Dressed in white, Nai Hung came in with a face full of smiles. Qin Mian looked him up and down and teased, "How can you be willing to go out today? You dare to mention it?" Nai Hung willfully sat down and consciously took the cherry in the fruit plate to eat. "You and Lei Tie didn't show up at my wedding. I wanted Yuan and Manman to be my bed-rolling boys. What a pity." /Note: Bed-rolling boys. It was a custom to let young boys roll on the bed to bless the couple with an abundance of children in their marriage. You should show understanding and sympathy for us, too. Qin Mian complained, "Our Double Siang House has to accept the challenge of many wine houses at the same time. Is it easy for Tai and me? We certainly have to seize the time to practice more." Nai Hung went straight to the heart of the matter. "It's your Double Siang House that challenges all wine houses at the same time, isn't it?" Qin Mian smiled but said nothing. "You should already know. My wine house also participated," added Nai Hung. Qin Mian nodded, "Yes. You have the right to join. You probably don't know that Lu Yunwei is here. I heard he used to be an imperial chef." Nai Heng's spirit was boosted. "Really? Of course, Lao Lu is a legend in the culinary world. Rumor has it that at the beginning, Lao Lu was just setting up a stall on the roadside. When the current emperor was young, he went out on an inspection tour in disguise and accidentally discovered Lao Lu and brought him into the palace. Later, Lao Lu became famous overnight. Although I don't know whether the story was true or not, Lao Lu is a man of real ability. This competition, even if we don't win, if we can get Lao Liu's guidance, we're considered very lucky." Qin Mian very much agreed with it. As he was about to speak, the door was pushed open. "Wife," Lei Tie came in carrying 2 sleepy-eyed little boys. Upon seeing Nai Hung, he nodded, "Congratulations. Give birth to a son soon." Nai Heng's forehead twitched. Are these words truly not meant to flaunt? "Many thanks. Dai." Manman sweetly called out. His newly woken up voice was so soft, it stirred one's soft spot. Yuan stretched out his hands to Qin Mian. His face was as red as an apple because he had been asleep for quite a while. Qin Mian walked over quickly. "What's the matter? They want you as soon as they woke up." LIAN handed Yuan and Manman to Qin Mian. At the side, Niheng snickered. The cold and stiff man seemed to have become a nursing father now. Qin Mian held each boy in one arm. In his arms, Yuan and Manman rubbed against him as drowsiness crept over them. Niheng stood up. You are busy. I'm going out to eat. Sorry for our poor hospitality. Qin Mian wore an apologetic look. Tai and I will treat you to a meal another day. By the way, is Mu Chen still in Zhaoyang? If so, call him over later. Yuan and Manman slept so uneasily that they frowned. LIAN patted them on the back. The scene of the family of four together exuded infinite warmth. Niheng said, he has returned to the capital city because of an urgent matter half a month ago. Qin Mian felt very regretful. After Niheng went out, Qin Mian sat down on the settee and adjusted his posture so that the two little boys were more comfortable. LIAN patted them with patience. When Yuan and Manman fell asleep, the two men talked in low voices. Wife, did you have a smooth meeting? N. Qin Mian smilingly nodded with a look of satisfaction on his face. Tai, we truly get help from heaven this time. I didn't expect that Lu Yunwei, the former imperial chef, and his two famous chef friends would show up. The three of them will make the result more convincing. This time, it's hard for our double Xiang house not to be famous. So confident. LIAN leaned over and kissed him. Of course. Qin Mian leaned slightly on him. Tomorrow night, prepare the ingredients with me. LIAN nodded and deepened the kiss. After Niheng left the lounge, he planned to eat in the private room on the second floor. When he passed the lobby, he noticed that some of the guests had exquisite pastries on their tables that he hadn't seen before, so he changed his mind. He casually chose a single-seat table and beckoned a waiter. If you have any new pastries today, please give me one portion of each. Yes. Lao Lu, Lao Gu, and Lao Wen all sat by the window, looking at the pastries on the table. For a while, they were speechless. The first kind was a rainbow cake that was sliced into rhombus and placed on a white porcelain plate. The cross-sectional cut part generously exposed 7 colors of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and purple, which made one felt happy just looking at it. The second kind was biscuits in rose red, light green, peach red, and pear yellow colors, which exuded sweet fruit fragrance. The third kind was purple yam blossoming rose buns which had an exotic aroma that assailed one's nostrils. Each one of the pastries were all pleasing to the eye. The appearance alone had given them a good impression. After quite a while, Lao Lu chuckled with a thoughtful look and said, the two bosses of Double Xiang House are truly people with extraordinary talent. Lao Gu spoke with a relatively strict manner, at present, it can't be certain. Lao Wen picked up a biscuit and put it in his mouth. We'll know soon. ******. The night before the competition, after Yuan and Manman fell asleep, Qin Mian and LIAN entered the magical space to prepare the ingredients for the competition. There were only 4 kitchen stoves in Double Xiang House, excluding the small kitchen. Therefore, with a large number of contestants, the competition adopted an elimination system. Every chef had to compete at least twice, so they had to prepare more ingredients. The ingredients for the vegetable dish had to be prepared specially, while the ingredients for the meat dish took more time to prepare. The required sheep shoulder, chicken breast, duck gizzard, winter mushrooms, winter bamboo shoots, and so on were all taken from the magical space. After dawn, LIAN got up first and cooked porridge before he roused the big and 2 small ones from sleep. After breakfast, he packed all the ingredients and put them on the carriage. The family of 4 came to Double Xiang House together. Yuan and Manman knew that their Dai was going to take part in the competition today, so they had been unusually well behaved. The place where the participating chefs cooked would be in Double Xiang House's kitchen. After cooking, they would bring the dishes to the lobby and ask Lao Lu and the other 2 men to comment in front of everyone. To avoid too many people interfering with the competition, except for the contestants' exclusive fire watchers, and the persons in charge of the participating wine houses, only the first 100 audiences were allowed to enter Double Xiang House to watch the competition. Those who came later were not allowed to enter anymore. Mian had considered things very carefully. Everyone who came later could get a packet of pastry from Glimmer of Paradise Bakery for free. As the saying went, the mouth was soft-spoken after getting the benefits of others. These people were too embarrassed to complain about anything then. At the hour of Chen, the competition began. The first competition was to identify the ingredients used in a certain dish. In front of all the chefs laid writing brushes, inks, papers and inkstones. After tasting the dish, they had to write down its various seasonings on the paper. /Note, hour of Chen is 7 to 9 am. Lao Lu and the two went to the kitchen and they brought out a pot of soup. The soup looked more like water added with various seasonings. It had been clearly filtered so that no seasonings or ingredients could be seen. Two waiters distributed a few dozens of small bowls to the participants. Lao Lu said with a smile, "This soup is made by this old fellow, Lao Wen and Lao Gu with various seasonings. It may not taste very good. Whatever seasoning we each added in there ourselves are only known to us individually and was not known by the other two. We'll announce the answers together after all the contestants have written their guests. Also, please write your full name on the paper. Proceed." Mian ladled up a spoonful of soup, took a small mouthful, and kept it in his mouth to taste each flavor. Then, he picked up the brush and wrote the ingredients down. LIAN, Yuan, and Manman sat by the wall to watch. "Lao Dai," whispered Manman in LIAN's ear while covering his mouth with his little hands when he saw his Dai writing, Dai's calligraphy is no good." LIAN threw a look at his wife with a smile in his eyes. It was not surprising that Manman and Yuan idolized him more. His wife's calligraphy had not improved so far. Maybe he should teach his wife well later. How about letting Dai practice calligraphy with you later? Yuan and Manman nodded again and again. The two identical small faces wore a mischievous smile which looked no different than when their Dai smiled mischievously. Mian didn't know at all that his own man and sons had hatched a plot involving him. He wrote very fluently that he soon wrote out all the spices and was the first one to stop writing. Lao Lu and the other two old men looked at each other, each with their own thought. Another moment later, everyone stopped writing. The waiters collected the papers and gave them to Lao Lu and the other two old men. The three old men first revealed the seasonings they had added. "I added star anise, soy sauce, cardamom. I added tangerine peel, wine, salt, cinnamon. I added sugar, ginger, garlic." A chef cried out involuntarily, "There can't be wine. I didn't taste it." The three old men shook their heads with a smile, quickly looked through all the papers, and picked out the ones with the correct answers. "Why didn't you taste it when so many people did?" That chef had nothing to say in reply and sat down dejectedly. Old Gu read out a list of those who answered correctly: Wang Fuxian, Lu Zongxian, Wu De Wang, Qin Mian, Zheng Xiangui. Qin Mian looked at LIAN, Yuan, and Manman. Yuan and Manman gave him a thumbs up with their faces full of smiles and then signaled LIAN to do the same with urging gazes. LIAN gave a thumbs up with a wooden face. Qin Mian's face blossomed with smiles, glowing and charming. Out of 79 participants, only 22 passed the first elimination round. Anyway, it didn't matter if they had not passed the first level. They could still redeem themselves in the second and third levels. The second competition was to make a vegetable dish. 4 people were assigned to a group to have a competition, where 2 people would be eliminated in each group. Those who were eliminated had another chance to compete after everyone had finished the first round. If they were eliminated once again, the next round would be considered a loss. Therefore, no matter whether the third round was a win or lose, they would not be able to recover the losses. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 160. Absolute Soup. The grouping was done by drawing lots. Qin Mian was in the fourth group. The first group was Wu Duwang, Zheng Xiangui, Zhao Xiang, and Zhang Shun. In less than half an hour, 4 waiters came out with 4 dishes and put them in front of Lao Lu, Lao Gu, and Lao Wen. The 4 vegetarian dishes were coconut-styled bamboo charm, garlic purple eggplant, golden silk greenish jade and spinach egg roll. The chefs who made these 4 dishes were all famous wine houses chefs. These 4 dishes were all extraordinary and had their own advantages. The coconut-styled bamboo charm was made up of celery stems and green vegetable leaves as the coconut trees, tomatoes as the sand beach, and emerald green cucumbers with round vegetable balls in the center of the porcelain plate. The appearance warmed the heart and delighted the eye. The garlic purple eggplant was bright in color and attractive in the aroma. The golden silk greenish jade was a cold dish of appetizing bean paste shredded bamboo shoots sprinkled with green coriander. The spinach egg roll was small and delicate, just like an ornamental. After Lao Wen commented on the appearance, both Lao Lu and Lao Gu nodded with approval. Manman stood on Lei Tiet's thighs and watched from a distance. He said as though he was evaluating them, "Not bad." Yuan said, "Dies will be more amazing." Manman had confidence in his dad, so he nodded in all seriousness, "N." After tasting the 4 dishes, Lao Lu commented, "The coconut-styled bamboo charm and the golden silk greenish jade have the most harmonious flavors. When you eat them, you can imagine the 2 chefs cooking in a smooth flow. This old fellow is sure that they have at least 10 years of cooking experience. The garlic purple eggplant is also quite remarkable. However, the heat was not controlled as the higher temperature prevent from bringing out the tasty flavor of the eggplant. The spinach egg roll appeared fairly well done, but perhaps the chef was nervous. Some spinach in the egg roll is still raw. Therefore, this old fellow think that the ones to pass should be the cook of coconut-styled bamboo charm and golden silk greenish jade." Lao Gu and Lao Wen seconded after having tasted the 4 dishes respectively. Wu Duwang and Zheng Xiangui looked at Qin Mian. Qin Mian cupped his hands in a congratulatory gesture to them with a smile on his lips with extreme calm. The complacent look on Wu Duwang and Zheng Xiangui's faces receded. The waiters served the rest of the dishes to other chefs and the audience for them to taste at will. The busybody people asked Wu Duwang and Zheng Xiangui and learned that both of them had indeed been chefs for more than 10 years. Thus, they admired Lao Lu even more for his insights. The second group soon entered the kitchen. Another waiter put away the dishes and chopsticks used by the 3 judges and replaced them with the clean ones. After the second and third groups were judged without a hitch, it was Qin Mian's 4th group turn. Whether it was the 3 judges, the contestants, or the audiences, they all paid more attention to Qin Mian. When Qin Mian entered the kitchen, they unconsciously watched his back and secretly guessed what dish he would make. Not long after that, 4 waiters came out with 4 plates of dishes, namely, pumpkin tangerine pancake, fried 3 shredded veggies, mashed potato balls, and woven cucumber. Pumpkin tangerine pancake was pumpkin made into an open-peeled tangerine. Fried 3 shredded veggies was shredded carrot, shredded kelp, and shredded potato arranged into a circle with each individual colors standing out. Mashed potato ball was made of potatoes kneaded into round balls. Woven cucumber was sliced cucumbers placed layer upon layer. These 4 dishes all paid attention to the appearance and was arranged artistically. The 3 judges did not evaluate the appearance but tasted them directly. The 3 judges' eyes changed slightly when they tasted the fried 3 shredded veggies. There was an inexplicable feeling that this dish must have been made by Qin Mian. It was made with the most ordinary ingredients, but it had an indescribable fresh flavor. Was this the special feature of Double Xiang House's seasoning? It was very obvious that the dishes one usually ate in Double Xiang House had been toned down. Lao Gu nimbly made a decision, fried 3 shredded veggies and pumpkin tangerine pancake pass. Qin Mian and the pumpkin tangerine pancake chef stood up, bowed to the judges with their hands folded in front, and sat down again. Lao Gu added, "If both chefs of the mashed potato ball and woven cucumber have any objection, you can also taste the fried 3 shredded veggies and the pumpkin tangerine pancake. Both chefs of the mashed potato balls and woven cucumber were very confident in their cooking skills, so they naturally walked over as they were unconvinced with the result. The waiter handed them 2 pairs of clean bowls and chopsticks. The rest of the contestants looked nervously at the 2 chefs. After they had tasted the fried 3 shredded veggies, they went to taste their own dishes and said with some reluctance, "The fried 3 shredded veggies is good indeed." Zheng Xiangui and Wu Duwang also tasted the fried 3 shredded veggies and felt a little threatened. However, both of them had retained their strength and were still full of confidence in defeating Qin Mian. Toward noon, the competition was suspended. After lunch and an hour's rest, the competition continued. After all, if everyone's stomach was full, even if a top-quality wine entered their mouths, it wouldn't taste delicious. At the end of the day, Qin Mian, Wu Duwang, Zheng Xiangui, Zhang Shun, and Jin Chong'an were the top 5 in the vegetarian dish competition. The next day, they would have another final round to decide their places. The audiences fully enjoyed the feast of visuals and taste. When they left Double Xiang House, they were still discussing the different kinds of dishes that they experienced today. They all decided to come back tomorrow. The next day, more people wanted to enter Double Xiang House to watch the competition, almost blocking the street in front of Double Xiang House. Some of them pretended to join in the fun but actually wanted to get a pastry from Glimmer of Paradise Bakery. The Glimmer of Paradise Bakery would lose a lot if everyone was given a pastry. All the contestants thought with schadenfreude to see Double Xiang House in trouble. Little did anyone know that not a moment later, 4 baskets of honey peaches came from Leisurely Farmhouse. As it turned out, the Double Xiang House's management had already expected today's situation. Double Xiang House handed out a honey peach to each of those who failed to enter until all had finished. No one could find fault with Double Xiang House with this. At the hour of Chen, the competition began. In addition to the small kitchen, each of the 5 chefs occupied a kitchen stove. In less than an hour, 5 vegetarian dishes were brought out by the waiters. The audiences stretched out their necks to look and guessed which dish came from which chef. The reason why the chefs were not allowed to carry their own dishes was to avoid the prejudice by preconceived ideas of the judges and audiences. By letting the waiters serve the dishes, the judges and the audience couldn't determine beforehand which cook made the dishes. The 5 vegetarian dishes were pan-fried tofu, green jade full hall, absolute soup, mixed veggies jelly and crunchy vegetarian pancake. The pan-fried tofu was poured with yellow soy sauce, neat in appearance and dotted with chopped red pepper and chopped scallions. Its rich color and aroma appealed to people's appetite. The green jade full hall was actually lotus root balls and cowpeas that were arranged into a fan-shaped plate. The absolute soup was very special. The whole bowl of soup had 2 colors, milky white on the left and lustrous green on the right, just like rivers Jing and Wei separated clearly. It was light in colors and smelled good. On the surface of the mixed veggies jelly, one couldn't see what it was made of, but each piece was transparent. Inside, one could see the fine carrot shreds and fine vegetable leaves, just like a natural fine jade, making people incomparably astonished. The crunchy vegetarian pancake was obviously a vegetarian dish but was made into the color and aroma of a meat dish, which equally caused people to gasp in surprise. Everyone suddenly understood something. Perhaps, this is the real strength of a professional cook. There was almost no sound in the lobby. Everyone was nervously waiting for the 3 judges' comments. Wu Duwang made the mixed veggies jelly, which was his exclusive secret recipe. He thought that it was better than the pan-fried tofu, the green jade full hall, and the crunchy vegetarian pancake, but he had no confidence to be better than Qin Mian's absolute soup. It was hard to shape things like soup. Even the layman knew that it was never easy to completely separate 2 different colors of soup. In the first place, Qin Mian's seasonings were better than others, but now, his dish was better in appearance and technique, so one could imagine the result. Zheng Xiangui thought that his crunchy vegetarian pancake was better than the green jade full hall, the mixed veggies jelly and the pan-fried tofu, but he feared that it was slightly inferior to the absolute soup. Nihung guessed that the most peculiar absolute soup was made by Qin Mian. He said with a smile to Lei Tie, "It seems that your double Xiang house even has something it was keeping from us, the diamond members." Lei Tie dully said, "Double Xiang house has never forgotten to inform the diamond members when new dishes are launched." That sentence implied that the absolute soup had not yet been launched. Nihung had nothing to say in reply. He stared at the absolute soup, wishing so much to replace the three judges to taste it. Lao Lu, Lao Gu and Lao Wen first looked at the 5 dishes and then nodded their heads. Then they picked up the bowls and chopsticks and tasted them separately. Every time they tasted a dish, they had to change a set of clean bowls and chopsticks to prevent the flavors from mixing up that could influence the optimum tasting. Everyone attentively stared at the 3 judges' expressions and noticed that they stared at the absolute soup for the longest time. Everyone knew then that the absolute soup was going to come out on top. After Lao Wen tasted the absolute soup, he couldn't stop taking another spoonful. The absolute soup was the only dish that the judge took a second taste. Sure enough, the 3 judges murmured for a moment before Lao Gu announced the result: absolute soup, first, mixed veggies jelly, second, pan-fried tofu, third, crunchy vegetarian pancake, fourth, green jade full hall, fifth. Lao Wen brought the absolute soup directly in front of him and lifted the spoon. Lao Lu quickly took the absolute soup away and handed it to the waiter. "We shouldn't drink it anymore. We'll continue to judge meat dishes later." If they were full, it would affect their comments on other dishes. With a regretful look on his face, Lao Wen looked at Qin Mian and said, "Boss Qin, after the competition, I'm going to stay in Double Xiang house for a few more days." Qin Mian cupped his hands with a smile, "It would be our honor." Lao Gu said, "Everyone, after resting for a time it took for an incense stick to burn off, we'll have the meat dish competition." The waiters served the 5 dishes to other chefs and audiences. Yuan and Manman waved to Qin Mian. Qin Mian walked over and bent down to kiss each of them. Lei Tie pulled Qin Mian to sit beside him. The family of 4 gathered close and whispered to each other. Yuan and Manman squirmed in their Lao Dai and Ah Dai's arms and gave out melodious laughter from time to time. The warm scene made many people envious. The people around Running Water Town had long ago stopped caring about Qin Mian and Lei Tie being both male couples, so there was no one who did not envy their family and business. Wu Duwang and Zheng Xiangui sat in the corner. The smiles on their faces were so fake that they disgusted people. Their eyes, however, were occupied by shadows. "Brother Zheng, if Qin Mian is in the top 5 in the meat competition, you and I will never get the 13 spices and the 18 delicacies recipes." Wu Duwang spoke of their current predicament. "Right." Zheng Xiangui felt tired and spiritless. "Although I didn't want to admit it, Qin Mian did have strength. Unless he doesn't take part in the competition, you and I won't be able to stop him from winning." Wu Duwang quietly made an obscure gesture under the table and lowered his voice, "Why not?" Zheng Xiangui immediately shook his head and nudged his chin toward Lei Tie on the opposite side. "Have you seen Qin Mian's man? Those eyes are like ice blades." Previously, he had stopped many of my colleagues' ideas about leisurely farmhouse and double Xiang house. "I dare say that on the first moment you and I act against Qin Mian, he will make your life worse than death the next moment. I don't want to gamble with my life." Wu Duwang inwardly scolded him for being as timid as a mouse. Zheng Xiangui took a sip of tea to refresh himself. "Now, I don't expect to get those 2 recipes. Whether I get the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th place, I can at least get my employer's 600 silver taels back." Wu Duwang was still a little reluctant. His voice sounded grim. "I don't believe he can actually get into the top 5. Wait and see." Lei Tie raised his eyes and his indifferent gaze flitted past Wu Duwang and Zheng Xiangui. When they returned to Qin Mian, they became calm and gentle. He handed Qin Mian a cup of tea. "Wife, have something to drink." End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 161. Famous all over the country. After a time for an incense to burn, the meat dish competition began. The contestants were still divided into groups by drawing lots first. This time, Mian was in the first group. The ingredients were already prepared, so it didn't matter if he was in the first group. The meat dish he wanted to make was steamed meat with rice flour and fermented tofu. After the competition ended, he would open a fermented tofu workshop. He wanted to use this opportunity to advertise the fermented tofu. In the first step, he added chili powder, minced ginger, fine white sugar, salt, pepper, and rice flour into fermented tofu juice and stirred well. After washing the streaky meat, he cut it into thin slices and put them into the well-prepared powder. He held and pinched the meat slices to ensure that the meat was covered in the prepared coating and seasoned them evenly. Then, he evenly spread the meat slices and marinated them for about a period of a column of incense to burn so that the flavor was well absorbed. After that, he placed the meat slices onto a plate and put an appropriate amount of water into a pot over high heat. When the water was boiling, he put the plate into the pot and left it to steam for a period of a column of incense to burn before taking it out. He used chopsticks to clip out the meat slices, put them on a new plate in a beautiful arrangement, and then garnished with chopped scallions. The procedures for making a meat dish were more than that of a vegetarian dish. Hence, in the beginning, the chefs chose relatively simple dishes. About an hour or so, all the 4 dishes were ready and brought to the lobby. Stewed chicken with 3 cups sauce, fragrant spicy duck in pot, peacock-styled steamed fish, steamed meat with rice flour and fermented tofu, and sweet and sour spare ribs all gave off a strong aroma, causing many people to involuntarily swallow their saliva. Lao Lu commented on the steamed meat with rice flour and fermented tofu, fat but not greasy, tender but not mushy, rich with 5 spices, suitable for young and old, simply a unique dish. Steamed meat with rice flour and fermented tofu easily passed. Mian had his eyebrows raised in delight and eyes laughing. When he decided to launch the steamed meat with rice flour and fermented tofu, he would use these 5 phrases as a slogan. The 5 dishes were divided for the rest of the chefs to eat. In the afternoon, Mian entered the second round of the competition and made a plate of squirrelfish. Squirrelfish was named after its shape. It was bright in color, tender, crisp, sweet and sour. It was highly praised by Lao Gu, Lao Wen, and Lao Lu. At this time, the participants vaguely realized that this cooking competition was practically like a publicity campaign for Double Siang House, while they acted as Mian's foils. Nonetheless, it was too late to regret. Under the circumstances, they could only continue to compete and try to get a better place in the competition. In the third round, Mian made beggar's chicken. Due to many meat ingredients needed to be marinated for the flavor to absorb before cooking, the preparation took a long time. The competition only reached the finale on the morning of the third day. The final competition was between Mian, Wu Duwang, Jin Chang'an, Zheng Xiangui, and Wang Fuxian. Wu Duwang had thought to let someone mess with Mian's ingredients on the sly, but unfortunately, the Lei family's armed servants had been watching him so tenaciously that he didn't even have the chance to instruct his subordinate in private for a few words. He could only helplessly watch Mian go to the last step smoothly. Mian tried his best to surprise everyone. For the last dish, he decided to make Buddha jumping over the wall. The cooking process of this dish was very complicated and he would be using multiple pots at the same time, so he tried to discuss with the other 4 contestants and 3 judges to let the other 4 contestants cook first and he would cook the last. At this stage, there was no hope of getting the secret recipes. The chefs still wanted to see Mian's higher cooking skills, so they didn't care about this little thing and agreed to his request. Wu Duwang, Jin Chang'an, Zheng Xiangui, and Wang Fuxian took the lead in the final competition. Wu Duwang made chrysanthemum fish, Jin Chang'an made crystal hoof, Zheng Xiangui made drunken chicken and Wang Fuxian made 3 sets of ducks, all of which allowed everyone to feast their eyes and feel happy to chance upon such fine food. Next, it was Mian's turn. Buddha jumping over the wall required 18 kinds of raw materials: sea cucumber, abalone, shark fin, dried scallop, shark's lip, fish maw, razor clam, ham, pork tripe, lamb shoulder, hoof tip, tendon, chicken breast, duck breast, chicken gizzard, duck gizzard, winter mushroom, winter bamboo shoot, and so on. Almost all of Mian's ingredients came from the magical space. Its cooking procedure was extremely complicated. First, all the 18 kinds of raw ingredients were processed into various dishes with their own characteristics by pan-frying, stir-frying, boiling, and deep frying. Then, they were stacked in a large wine jar layer by layer. An appropriate amount of soup and 20-year-old wine were poured in so that the soup and wine were fully fused with the dishes. Lastly, sealed the mouth of the jar with lotus leaves and heated it over the fire. The fire was also very particular when making the Buddha jumping over the wall. It required solid sinking and smokeless white charcoal. First, it was boiled over a big fire, and then it was slowly simmered over a small fire. Nearly 6 hours later, Mian came out of the kitchen. By this time, the sun was about to set. Lao Lu, Lao Wen, and Lao Gu were already hungry. When they saw the two waiters carrying a big jar out, they knew it was Mian's dish, but they couldn't smell any aroma. They looked at each other in wonder and became more curious about it. As soon as the lotus leaves at the mouth of the jar were uncovered, the rich aroma quickly filled the whole lobby and directly into the hearts of everyone. Everyone was shocked. Some people spontaneously exclaimed, "Smells so good." This kind of aroma was strong but not cloying. It whetted the people's appetite by its aroma alone. It seemed that one didn't need to taste it to judge that Buddha jumping over the wall was the first place in this cooking competition. After the three judges tasted it, as everyone expected, they agreed unanimously to make Mian the winner. Lao Lu laughed as he clapped his hands and even praised good 3 times. Sure enough, the younger generation will surpass the older. Wenxiang and Guxiang, how about having dinner with this Buddha jumping over the wall? There was another sentence he didn't say. It was obvious that this Buddha jumping over the wall was the original creation of Double Siang House that had never been tasted until today. Other chefs also wanted to experience the charm of this dish, but before they could speak, Lao Gu and Lao Wen echoed Lao Liu's words. The 3 old men picked up the chopsticks to eat. While eating, they urged the waiters to bring them a few bowls of rice, making others helpless and amused. The famous chefs from all over the country, including Jin Chong'an from the capital, were sincerely convinced of Mian's cooking skills. Here, divide it among you. Lao Gu handed the money box to Mian. Mian and the other 4 chefs took out the money and divided it according to the ratio of 5:4:3:2:1. Aside from Mian's 2 recipes, the other 78 wine houses all paid 600 taels of silver each. Therefore, as the first place, Mian received 15,600 taels of silver, practically a gloveless white wolf. Everyone admired and envied him. /Note: Gloveless white wolf is a phrase used in the business world to supposedly meant a person gained a great deal for a small amount of capital or to imply that he has not paid it. To avoid being assassinated by their eyes, Mian quickly said that everyone's dinner was at 70% off. NING looked at Lao Lu and his 2 companions and enviously licked his lips. He walked to Mian. "Boss Mian, when will you launch the Buddha jumping over the wall in Double Siang House? Be sure to send someone to let me know." Mian folded the banknotes and put them into his pocket. He shook his head. "Frankly speaking, I haven't considered whether to launch this dish." NING, for fear that he would not be able to taste it, quickly said, "Why not? Since the process of this dish is quite complicated, just set the price higher." Mian still shook his head. "More than the complexity? I have to teach the chefs first before I launch this dish. So, you probably won't be able to eat it within a short period of time. But you can rest assured that I will send someone to inform you." NING got a satisfactory answer and let him go. Qin Mian quickly ran to Lei Tie before more people come around. Yuan and Manman had fallen asleep in Lei Tie's arms. He picked up Yuan and went to the lounge with Lei Tie. For the time being, they let the two little boys sleep on the settee and covered them with blankets. Today, it was not only Qin Mian that had worked hard but Yuan, Manman and Lei Tie all worked hard to accompany him. Qin Mian first kissed the big poker face on his lips and then on Yuan and Manman's foreheads. "Haven't had dinner yet." "Waiting for you," said Lei Tie. "I knew it. Let's go. I'll make you something delicious." Qin Mian took him to the kitchen. The cooking competition came to a successful end. The next day, the chefs from all over the country took their leave one after another. Qin Mian was very generous. He gave each of them a jar of Jimmer of Paradise fermented tofu and a delicately packaged pastry. Lao Lu, Lao Wen, and Lao Gu stayed in Double Xiang House for 6 days before they left. Before they left, they even invited Qin Mian to go to the capital when he had a chance, so that they could compare notes in cooking skills. Qin Mian seized the time to hand over the methods of all the dishes he had cooked in the competition to the 4 chefs. The prices of each dish were extremely high, especially absolute soup and Buddha jumping over the wall. Absolute soup was 5 taels of silver per serving and Buddha jumping over the wall was 20 taels of silver per serving. Even so, those who were rich and willful flocked to Double Xiang House in an endless stream to taste absolute soup and Buddha jumping over the wall. It could be said that for those non-local who came to Double Xiang House for the first time, having absolute soup and Buddha jumping over the wall were a must, even if they had to wait 6 hours for them. Since then, Double Xiang House had become famous with profits pouring in from all sides. Qin Mian confidently handed Double Xiang House over to manager Sun to handle. When he returned to Green Mountain Village, he was ready to plan for the fermented tofu workshop. Lei Tie, Yuan, and Manman pulled him to the table and arranged for him to sit. "What is this for?" Qin Mian didn't understand and said with a smile, "Are you going to give me a surprise?" "Nua, my birthday is long past." Yuan brought a binding book over and put it in front of Qin Mian. Manman said in all seriousness, "Adai, from today on, you will learn calligraphy with us." "What?" Qin Mian gaped, "Me? Will learn calligraphy with you?" He looked at Lei Tie inexplicably and blinked. "What's happened?" Lei Tie said honestly, "The children said your calligraphy is no good." Qin Mian's face turned gloomy at once. His pencil writing, ballpoint writing and gel pen writing were all beautiful standard style of handwriting. Who dared to say that his writing was ugly? Lei Tie soothed, "Wife, don't you always think that Yuan and Manman idolize me more?" Yuan and Manman nodded heavily to express that they really idolized their Lao Dai. Qin Mian struck the table as he said, "I just don't want you to see my greatness. Don't you know that old King Ma has 3 eyes?" He picked up the brush, wrote down a few lines in the book, and handed the book to Lei Tie. "Read it to the 2 little boys." /Note, Old King Ma is an important Dharma protector of Taoism. The phrase was to indicate that the person is mighty / End chapter.